Hi, Etty. In response to your question, hi, thank you for commenting on photo picture. You mentioned the stats were wacky, so here's why. At the beginning of the photo shoot, I set the camera to regular settings for a sunny day. That's a mistake. That's not true. The settings that I've said, 200 ISO at a 250th of a second at 1.8, are a okay. I'm understanding how you're thinking, okay, and you need to be thinking differently, okay. There are no such things as set settings. The settings are dependent on how much light is available. There are sunny days, depending on where you are, when there can be a lot of light available, and there are other days when even though the sun's out, it could be to do with cloud cover or to do with where you are with buildings and things like that, that the light levels are much lower. You have to set your camera at settings that are correct for the level of light. Okay, so to say I correct them at the regular settings for a sunny day, 200 ISO at a 1/250th of a second at 1.8 is not a correct thing to say, because those are not regular settings. We set our ISO at 200. Yeah, that's how we leave our ISO. Then we set our aperture if we're taking a picture of one person at 1.8 or 2.2 if it's more than one, etc., etc. We set our aperture at the widest, okay, and then we set our shutter speed accordingly, according to the amount of light that there is available. So now at 200 ISO at 1/250th of a second at 1.8. So let me say it again. At a 200 ISO at 1.8 at a 2/50th of a second, it could very well be that that's going to be that exposure is going to be too bright. The picture is going to be overexposed. So what do? We need to cut away light. How do we cut away light? We cut away light in this case by making our shutter speed quicker and quicker and quicker. So at 2/50th of a second, if that's too bright and we're going to keep our ISO at 200, we're going to keep our aperture at 1.8. So now at 2/50th, the picture's too bright. So let me go click, click, click to a 1/500th. Look at my picture at the back. I see it's still too bright. What do? Okay, click, 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 a 1/1000. Okay, look at my picture at the back. It's now still just a bit bright, but it's still too bright. Click, 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 1/2000. I now have a correct exposure. Okay, so there's no such thing as regular settings for a day. All we know, the answers to the three questions is aperture widest, ISO lowish, shutter speed quickish. Okay, the reason why I didn't say actual numbers is because you can never ever give anybody numbers, because it depends on the amount of light in that situation, and light levels change, like I said at the beginning of this recording. So the way that I teach, the system that I'm teaching in photography, is you put your ISO to 200, you set your aperture to the widest, which means giving yourself enough depth of field to make sure that no one's out of focus, and then you use your shutter speed to get your correct exposure, always making sure that your shutter speed doesn't drop below a 200th of a second. And if it does drop below a 200th of a second to get correct exposure, then you will put your ISO up to make sure that your shutter speed stays above a 200th of a second so that you don't risk camera shake. Okay, I hope that helped. Let me know if it didn't. All the best.